accounts, but opposition and of...
The story of true faith brings assurance and certainty for success. We can't take light the challenges of the unimaginable brutal efforts the occupation forces dedicate to destroy the faith and spirit, yet it is them that are already in deep loss. The evident systemic and strategic methods we are witnessing is no short of this textbook genocide. It is a moral obligation that upon bearing witness to these heinous crimes, that we are to oppose them. We must continue to tell their stories, write about them and create content, get serious with boycotting, and to never tire with the work on being the process for it to manifest externally. The fragmented stories provide the piecing together of a bigger picture. And we saw documented the story of the storyteller Professor Rafat al-Arir. Also to many Palestinians, al-Arir was born a role model and a mentor. He co-founded We Are Not Numbers, a non-profit established to develop a new generation of Palestinian writers, pairing them with mentors abroad to help them write stories in English. He remained in northern Gaza after Israel isolated it from the rest of the Strip. And he wrote, "As Gaza keeps gasping for life, we struggle for it to pass. We have no choice but to fight back and tell her stories for Palestine." In recent time, we saw the beloved Professor Rafat al-Arir, a Gazan teacher, recite his last poem, and dedicated to the martyrs. "If I must die, you must live, to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings, make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze, and bid no farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel is there bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope, let it be a tale."
Half of the Palestinians remained inside Palestine. And the Palestinians who became refugees outside the boundaries of Palestine continued the resistance of the Palestinians. And therefore, the settler colonial ideal of eliminating the native was not fulfilled. And incrementally, Israel was using all it could from 48 until today to continue the elimination of the native. And the elimination of the native from the beginning to the end includes not only a military operation by which you occupy a place, massacre people, or expel them. Elimination of the native needs all kinds of ideological and philosophical infrastructure. You need to make sure that your own society continues to dehumanize the Palestinians. You cannot massively kill people. You cannot genocide another people as a human being if you think that they are a human being. So dehumanization of the Palestinians is an integral part of the Israeli educational system, is an integral part of the messages that the Israeli media and Israeli politics convey to their own people. And you have to maintain it all the time. But I want to say that there's something positive that comes out of it, which sounds crazy because I'm describing to you a powerful state with a military machine, with an ideological infrastructure that is focused solely on the destruction of the indigenous people of Palestine. A people of Palestine who don't have a strong alliance behind them. And a state of eliminatory policies that has a strong alliance behind it. From the United States through multinational cooperation, through military industry, security firms, mainstream media and mainstream academia. So we're talking about something that almost now sounds hopeless and depressing because you have these international immunity to the policies of elimination that began from the early stages of Zionism until today, and we're seeing probably the worst chapter on the Israeli attempt to push forward eliminatory policies to a new kind of level. Into a much more concentrated effort of killing thousands of people in a short period of time, like they have never dared to do before. So why is it, where do you see the positive side of it, one can ask? And I think what is so important is that the way you need to maintain the dehumanization in order to justify the elimination of another people is not a basis for a nation state in the future. And we saw it even before the 7th of October. Take out the project of the elimination of the Palestinians. And you ask yourself, what unites the people who see themselves as Jews in the state of Israel? What keeps them together if you take out the Palestinian issue? If you take out the idea that we need to be united because we are fighting this native people, we need to complete the project of displacement, of replacement. Take it out, and what you get is what you saw on the streets of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem on the 6th of October. Huge demonstrations between secular Jews, those who describe themselves as secular Jews, mostly of European origin, believing that it's possible to create a democratic, pluralistic state while maintaining the occupation and the apartheid towards the Palestinians inside Israel. Struggling with a messianic new kind of Zionism that developed in the settlements, what I call the state of Judea, that suddenly appeared in our midst, and believing that they have now a way of creating a kind of a Zionist theocracy with no consideration for democracy or international immunity for Israel, and believing that this is the only way to create a Jewish state in the future. There's nothing in common between these two visions apart from one thing. Both camps don't care about the Palestinians. Both camps believe that the survival of Israel depends on the continuation of the elimination policies towards the Palestinians. This is not going to hold water. This is going to disintegrate and implode from within, because you cannot really keep in the 21st century a state and a society on the basis that what keeps people together, or a sense of belonging, is being part of an eliminatory genocidal project. It can work for some, definitely, but it cannot work for everyone. And we have seen already the indication before the 7th of October how Israelis who have opportunities in other places in the world due to their dual nationality, due to their profession, due to their financial abilities, are thinking loud and clear of relocating both their money and themselves outside of the state of Israel. And what you will be left with is a society that is economically weak, that is led by this kind of fusion of messianic Zionism with racism and eliminatory policies towards the Palestinians. And yes, the balance of power at first would be on the side of the elimination, not of the victims of the elimination. But the balance of power is not just local. The balance of power is regional. The balance of power is international. And the more the eliminatory policies are, and that's terrible to say it, but that's true, the more the elimination is not anymore covered up as a response, as a retaliation, it becomes a brutal genocide policy, the less it is likely that the immunity that Israel enjoys today would continue in the future. So I really think, and with this I would end, I think that at this very dark moment that we are experiencing, it is a dark moment because the elimination of the Palestinians has moved to a new stage. There's no doubt about it. In terms of the discourse of the Israelis, in terms of the means that they are using, the intensity, and the purpose. I I'm a historian of Israel and Palestine. There wasn't such a period in the history of Palestine. This is a new phase of the brutality, of Zionist brutality towards the Palestinians. We have never experienced anything that even the Nakba, which was bad and horrible, does not compare to what we are seeing now and what we are going, unfortunately, to see in the next few months. We have to take into account what we have seen. This is not, we're just in the first 3 months of a period, to my mind, of 2 years. Of 2 years that we will witness the worst kind of things that Israel can inflict on the Palestinians. But even in this dark moment, we should understand that settler colonial projects that disintegrate, that collapse, are always using the worst kinds of means to survive at the very end of the project. This happened in South Africa, it happened in South Vietnam. We are with, and I'm saying this not as a wishful thinking, and I'm not saying this as a political activist, I'm saying it as a scholar of Israel and Palestine with all the confidence of my scholarly qualification. We are witnessing the end of the Zionist project. There is no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. This historical project has come to an end.
Especially at the ICJ, but elsewhere, is that the very simple but important concept of international justice is being undermined by the West and Israel. And I don't think there is a separation between the West and Israel. Israel is a machine operated by the West, for the West, not for Jews, not for Palestinians, not for us, not for you. It is a killing machine. It is a thieving machine, as Rabbi Cohen said. It is a destructive machine. And this is not Jewish. So, what is now at stake at the IJC is the very concept of international justice, because Palestine is now, it has become, and I think it will continue to be, a symbol of resistance to colonialism, a symbol of resistance to apartheid, a symbol of resistance to injustice. Never in my life have I seen such a unity of understanding and thought that we now have all over the world, even in the Western world. Ironically, the West is supporting this murder, but the people of the West, sitting here and outside, are not supporting it, are coming out in their millions, and now more than 1 billion people have marched for Palestine. So no one is confused in the world. And what really warms my heart is that most of those people are young. And remember, Palestine is the youngest nation on earth. The young Palestinians will decide what will happen in Palestine. And the young Palestinians have said for a long, long time that what they want is a single democratic state in the whole of Palestine. And Ilan, myself, and many other Jews are supporting this. And Rabbi Cohen spoke for it today. And we are now growing because young American Jews, young British Jews, we're coming today from Europe. We flew from a meeting of between 400 and 500 people that Ilan and I spoke to in Geneva. It lasted 4 hours, you know. Have you ever heard a meeting that lasts 4 hours and when it's over, nobody wants to go home? So everyone understands that young people will not take this nonsense anymore. And they're saying so. And they don't listen to the lies on the BBC. They don't read the lies in The Guardian. I'm not even mentioning the right-wing press. This is the future. Those people with their telephones, with their knowledge of communication and with its efficient use, and with their ideas of justice, which come from, after all, among others, the Jewish religion.
Well, we had for years memorial days for the Holocaust. You will notice that in our count, the Holocaust, the Nazi Holocaust, had 11 million people killed. The normal counting is speaking about 6 million because it only counts the Jews. So that's why we stopped doing that, because people think that when you speak about a Holocaust, you speak only about Jews. No, 5.5 million Jews died in the Holocaust, and 5.5 million others. 5 million of prisoners of war from the Soviet Union died in the Holocaust, in the same camps, in the same way that Jews did. So it's very important to speak about an inclusive picture of genocide rather than the exclusive picture that always puts Jews first. We are against that. Well, Netanyahu is on the way out. He's probably going to end up in jail, not for his real crimes, which are genocide and ethnic cleansing, but for, taking money from the public illegally. But he will end up in jail and he will lose his post. So there's no need to listen to Netanyahu. I would listen to the Israeli public, which unfortunately agrees with him. This is what worries me, that the attitudes of Netanyahu of denying the genocide are shared by a larger public in Israel, by the Jewish Israelis. That is really terrible, and that's what we need to work on. But I don't think Netanyahu is more than a war criminal. We shouldn't ask him to sort things out. He should be in jail.
So apart from Netanyahu, what about Joe Biden, Rishi Sunak, and even Germany? I mean, they're supporting the arms in Israel. How comes they are not being charged with these crimes?
Well, of course, they also belong in the same jail with Netanyahu, with the army commanders of Israel, with Blinken, with Biden. Biden has already started 2.5, maybe 3 wars, and he probably plans to start another before the year is out. So these people are all criminals. Rishi Sunak is a criminal. Also, the leader of the Labour Party is a very strong supporter of this genocide. They should all find themselves facing justice. To support genocide is genocide. This is the law.
This program was initiated after Operation Cast Lead in 2009. And is there to sort of challenge man's inhumanity to man without any hierarchical structure. I mean, we have programs like Holocaust Memorial, which really just makes exceptional of one particular or 2 or 3 particular event. But we really need to challenge and remember all of them, including what was done to indigenous population in America, in Canada, in Australia, what happened in Algeria, what happened through 100 million lost lives through slavery, and indeed the famine in India, the famine in Ireland, the famine in Iran, which millions of people will perish because of the politics of British Empire. Now, we need to remember all that, but even more important, if we are really serious about never again, we need to set up structures to recognize when we are sleepwalking into genocide. Like, for example, what is happening in Palestine, what is happening in Myanmar, what is really likely to happen in India. I mean, really, we should be doing something now. But the problem is that institutions, be it UN or international courts, an international community, is not fit for purpose. They are really instrument for colonial establishment. So we need to decolonize these institutions. We need to get masses waking up to what is needed so we could challenge this sort of atrocity.
This is a very important day. It has been going on for 10 years, and I think I was involved in the first day. This universalizes human suffering. It doesn't create exceptionalism. It doesn't create a hierarchy of racism. This is a very simple message that any racism, any genocide, any ethnic cleansing is a crime against humanity. It doesn't matter who the perpetrator is, and it doesn't matter who the victim is. Surprisingly, most of the memorial days for genocide we have are exceptionally locating one case and forget all the others. This is a huge project, and more important than anything else, finally we understand that also the Palestinians are victims of genocides, not just this year, but for more than 120 years. It's a mixture of history, economic interest, strategic interest, cynical interest. First of all, there's a very strong pro-Israeli lobby that has been going on for a century, and it affects political leaders all over the Western world. So that's one reason that they don't dare to challenge, even if they know the facts. Secondly, Israel is connected to military industries, multinational corporation, and they have a vested interest not to irritate Israel. And thirdly, I think in some places like Europe, it's still very difficult to go against a state that defines itself as a Jewish state because of the Holocaust. So there is this coalition that provides Israel immunity, even if very educated and knowledgeable people know that what they are immunizing is the genocide of the Palestinians. I think, unfortunately, the very near future is very gloomy, very frightening, violent, more suffering, more bloodshed. But I do see beyond that the beginning of fundamental transformation that would change the reality in Palestine from being a racist apartheid state to a more democratic, egalitarian state for all, which I think will also influence the political fabric of the Eastern Mediterranean as a whole, and hopefully also of the Arab world.